Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, today with my fantastic side host, Sasha. Hello, my darling.
Hi, guys. Hi, here I am.
You are here, and I'm so excited for this conversation because, this is a topic we talked at length about from a variety of angles, and yet you and I still have offline conversations about really people like what, why, how is this still happening? So, August is National Wellness Month. Obviously, we talk about wellness all the time. That's the whole gist of the Be a Better Being podcast. And one of the foundational elements is nutrition. And it's one that you and I have both had some challenges with and are
Also, what I would say brought us together.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right with Sasha's 7-day and my
Oh, yeah.
input on some of those things. So, yeah, nice shout out about that for sure. And I know you've learned a lot in the couple years that we've interacted, and now you're even starting to maybe see some things or hear some things that other people are doing that make you go, And so that's what we're going to talk about. Like, I want to pound this message home. People, we need to eat. And yes, what you put in your body matters. Like, in every way, it matters. So I want you to start with the story you told me just the other day about this person that you interacted with during one of your super
So I had signed up for a 100-kilometer race. So it's broken down would be a 62.5-mile run. No, I didn't complete the whole thing. Yes, that's okay. I didn't complete it. I did get to mile 50. I didn't think I would. There was a big mess with the whole thing, but long story short, didn't get there, but did achieve my 50 miles. Well, during one of my breaks, I was just, drinking my waters, drinking my sodium, my elements, my eating whatever it was that I had prepared. And this guy could not walk. He could not walk like at all. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, bro, are you okay? He's like, yeah, completed the 50K. I'm like, that's incredible. Like, every time I do a really long distance run, I learn something about myself. I also learn what not to do in the future. And so I would love to hear, what are your takeaways, my dude? Like, what are you going to focus on differently next time? Like, I'm at a rest stop. I'm always learning from other people. So I'd love to learn from you. And he looked at me and he goes, you know what, out of all the things today, and I'm telling you, this guy couldn't walk. Like, I cannot stress you enough that this dude could not walk. Give me 1 second.
So hold on. Was it because he was injured or he was collapsed of fatigue or why could he not walk?
Yeah, great question. He had blisters up and down his feet because he never changed his socks. He never changed his shoes after during the 31 whatever miles. And for those of you who haven't experienced this, your feet create a lot of heat and a lot of friction from the different terrain and just from moving so much. So realistically, what's smart, or for me at least, what I have to do is I have to change my shoes after like mile 20 or 25, just because it's too hot and I'm trying to avoid the blisters. So that has been one of my takeaways that I have learned from the past, is how to avoid blisters. If you get a blister, it's really, like, for me at least, game over. Like, it's not fun. I don't want to experience. Do you want to continue running on whatever when your feet are starting to blister up? Like, I don't. And so when I asked him that, I was just assuming that this guy would say something about, my feet blistering, maybe changing my shoes or paying attention to what kind of socks I put on. And this guy goes, I think my takeaway is going to be nutrition. And I go, nutrition? You can't even walk. Like, what about your nutrition? He goes, I just need to pack better. And it's just, it gave me light that people are not really being aware or taking into account, like, your feet are broken and you're going to focus on nutrition next time. Like, come on, my dude. I didn't have time to ask him about his nutrition or anything like that, but I did find it comical that you cannot walk And your one takeaway, even though you cannot walk because you were not paying attention to your shoes and your socks, is nutrition. So I called him out on that and I said, I don't know. I don't think I personally don't think your focus or your takeaway from this race should be on nutrition. I think you should focus on when to switch out your shoes. And he's like, oh, I never thought of that. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I just got up and started running. And I was laughing for the remainder of that loop that I was on. I was like, is this man delusional? You can't walk because you weren't paying attention to your feet and what your body was telling you and sending you little mini signals. And instead you're gonna, and yes, of course, nutrition is so important during races. Like you have to be on point. You have to be taking, your sodium, and you have to be eating high quality protein, and also your sugars, and like everything has to be monitored. But for this man to tell me that he couldn't even move, like he would probably crawled back to his car, that he was going to focus on nutrition last time, I laughed. I was like,
But I think that also highlights how critical nutrition is, right? To him, you don't know what he did for the first 30 miles of it or whatever. Maybe he was cramping, maybe he had no energy, and that could have been altering his gait or his pace, which could have increased the friction on his, who knows, right? But for him, to see that he's in such debilitating pain and can't walk, and yet nutrition is something he thinks should be the focus, I think actually speaks volumes. And it would be interesting to know, what kind of nutrition does he follow and what did he do different? And clearly, when you're doing a race like that, that's a whole different conversation than just. So I'll give you my story. I just yesterday, I have a friend who lives up on a higher floor, and he and I go paddleboarding sometimes. He's very active. He's retired. He goes and does everything all day, and he's a go 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 and forgets to eat. Okay, like I don't even understand how that happens. Like I think about food all the time because I know I have to, and it's not a bad thing. So anyway, he was helping me move some heavy furniture, and it was like 6:30 in the evening yesterday, and I could tell he was a little off. Like he didn't hear what I was saying. He asked me really like basic questions like, "What's all this stuff in your living room?" And I'm like, "It's my bedroom." Because we're putting a rug in my bedroom, so I had to bring all my stuff from my bedroom. Like that seems like a pretty obvious, like my pillows and my bed. Like, what do you think this stuff is? Right? Well, so then at some point he's like, "Yeah, I didn't eat today." I'm like, "Wait, what?" First of all, it's 102 degrees. You were out hiking, and then you went down to the gym and worked out, and it's 6:30 p.m. What do you mean you didn't eat today? Well, yeah, I just got busy and I forgot. I'm like, no wonder you can't think and you can't function and you don't hear me. And like this project that maybe, wasn't hard. It seemed like a struggle. And I'm like, oh my God, we need to eat. You can't not eat. You can't forget to eat. Like that's just, it can't be a thing. And I don't know. I don't know how to get, and he's not the only one. I mean, I have this conversation over and over when I do coaching, and they're like, but I get so busy at work and I just forget to eat. You can't forget to eat. You can't forget to do a basic human need. So I don't know what it is, if it really is just something. Oh, and then I'd had this conversation too. Well, I don't need to eat. I can go a long time without eating. I just had that conversation with somebody else. He's a medic. He's a medic. And we were out paddleboarding and I had snacks and he's laughing. I'm like, he's like, no, I don't need to eat. I'm like, just because you don't need, yes, you do. Like, but I could go long times without eating. Well, so can I. That's beside the point. The point is you need to fuel your body so it can function correctly so that you don't spike and crash, so that, like long term, your body operates properly. So this whole idea of I don't need to eat or I forget to eat or I only eat when I'm hungry, which honestly I think is the worst thing to do because our hunger cues are almost never accurate. I don't know. I don't know how to convince people. And I know it's not my job to convince people, but how to really educate people because they tell you when you don't eat, a whole bunch of other things are not going to go right either. And if you
don't
just eat, a whole bunch of things will go right.
don't you think it's because we've been conditioned to be afraid of food?
I think that's part of it for sure.
I don't think it has much to do with I forget to eat. I think we're scared. I personally believe that we are afraid of food.
I think for women, yes. I think for guys, honestly, I think it's just they're like, well, I don't need to eat. Or I'll eat when I feel like it, or and some of it is also just like personality, right? Like, oh, I get so busy and I'm not hungry. And if I go by my hunger cues, then well, why should I eat? I'm not hungry. So I think it could be different for everybody. But yes, for listeners, if you haven't listened to the episode that I just did with Rachel Levin, you should listen to it because we talk about that, right? This fear of food, this shame around eating food, and this judgment about food, and this conditioning that many of us have had of, eat less, eat less, eat less, all of that. And it's still a belief that a lot of people have. And again, I don't know how to break through that belief, but I know every time I work with somebody, whether it's in my U Revolution program or coaching, where they just hear thing, a lunch and learn, and they actually like start eating and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Oh my gosh, I have energy." Like, right, because that's what food does for you. So yeah, I'm not really sure how to get people to buy in, and then of course to actually like do the work and the effort to have food in front of you. It's like with my friend, he's like, "Well, we were going to pack sandwiches to go hiking and then I forgot. I forgot to pack sandwiches to take hiking and that's why we didn't eat." Like, I don't know.
I think about my little self, my younger self, my college self, and how I was playing soccer and, practicing and then doing all the weightlifting and not eating. And then I would go the whole day without eating and then I'd binge eat at night. And then it just was, I was caught in a really gross and toxic cycle and relationship with food. And there's a little gal that I mentor. Her name is Alice, and she's 12, and she's an incredible athlete. And the reason why I mentor her is because I see so much of myself in her. And that's the one thing that we struggle back and forth is, Alice, you need to eat. She's like, I do eat. So she'll order something. And she'll order something and then she acts like she's eating it, but then she's not eating it. And it's like, how do I get through to not just her, but to everyone else, right? Like my sister, my mom, everyone, that eating is necessary. And like, you can't starve yourself. You can't just eat like 300 or 400 calories or 800 calories a day and just be like, okay, I did it. And now I'm going to get skinny. Like, that's not how your body works. Like, you have got when I was at my prime, like, oh my gosh, I was eating so much food. It reminded me of when I was in Denver with you. And I just sat there and I think we spent an entire 8 hours of just watching you eat your salads and your eggs and your scrambles and your this and your protein shakes. And it would like 20 minutes in between each meal. But you know what? And that is actually healthy.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Just a little.
But that's how when I was at my prime in 2016 and doing all these CrossFit competitions and all these things, I was constantly feeding myself. I was eating 32 to 3500 calories because my body needed it and I could feel how strong I was. And now I am getting back into that, but I lose sight of it and it's so difficult to battle that conditioning. The whole, no, if you eat, you will, because if you do this, you will see this. So if I don't eat, then I will see this. Or if I do eat, then I will see this. At least that is my experience and my relationship with food. But I personally know I need to eat. I don't know what we can do to explain that or to drive that home. Like you said, that like food is friends. Like, we need to eat.
Yeah, and I think it is a very delicate conversation. Obviously, with some people, like I can talk to my friend, my neighbor, in a very different way than I would approach it with Alice, right? Because it can be a very scary conversation and one that they'll put up walls against, and then that could start to feed some internal challenges, right? Yeah. And to the point that everybody does need food, but we do need different amounts, right? Not everybody should eat like me because you are not me. You're not active like me. Not everyone should eat like Sasha when she's doing her training, when she's not in that mode. You shouldn't eat that way either because that's not what your body needs at that time. But I also think, it's not just about what it does to our weight. And I think that is such a focus that we put on, right? Food and weight, food and weight, food and weight. Food is your nutrition. Food is for the raw materials that those foods give you so your body functions, so your brain functions, so your heart functions, so your kidneys function, so your cells develop properly, so you can think properly. And I think when we only look at food in terms of what it does for our weight, or even in the moment, what it does for our energy, we lose sight of all these other things that that food should be doing for us. And if we're not putting those resources in, then the body's going to compensate in some way to kind of make do with this lack of food. And anytime your body has to compensate, you're just not going to get an optimal benefit or result from that. And it might not be immediate. It might be now I've developed diabetes because I have gone my whole life all day without eating. And then I eat a whole bunch of food.
And she's not talking intermittent fasting all day.
No,
Intermittent
no,
fasting.
no.
Like that's I want to call that out because recently, as of April, my doctor also put me on a smart intermittent fasting window. And I used to be so anti that. And then it happened. And then Michelle's like, I do it too. And I was like, what? Why didn't you tell me that? So like she is not talking intermittent fasting. To piggyback off of what she was speaking of, that your body needs food to metabolize in order for different functionalities and for your organs to be able to move and do what they're supposed to do properly. I just took a quiz through work. They do these awesome, they'll pick something and then try to impact all of the employees through it. And one of it was with food. And this one, I hadn't ever heard this statistic, but your brain metabolizes 20% of what you eat. So 20% of that is going directly to your brain. So like if that tells you anything, and this is something else that I saw last week. A calorie is just a form of a unit to measure. 1 calorie over here does not mean it's the same calorie as over here. So if you're giving yourself a bunch of crappy calories, then your brain has to function off of 20% of a bunch of crappy calories.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to the point of, back in my day and even probably still your day, like, oh, it's just calories in, calories out, except it's not. Because the type of calories that go in, when they go in, how they go in, all of that impacts how your body is going to use those calories.
I think you need to drive that home. I think maybe that's how we start to explain to people that like food is necessary, because I don't want to say like back in your day or back in my day. I really think that's where we're at now. Everyone is just focused on this system of calorie and 1 calorie or 150 calories. And is this calorie the same as like people? It's not like, it's not a
Well, yes. And to your point about, only eating 800 or 1,000 or 1,200 calories, I want people to understand that that is starvation mode. Right. So, and I had this conversation with Rachel on our episode that we just did. But yes, you will. So if you think that weight loss is your goal, and a lot of people, again, we associate food and exercise with weight loss. So if you think weight loss is your goal, and I'll just do that by eating less, to some degree, you'll lose weight because you're starving. That's what happens when there's no food. Back in the day, that was a real thing. It was called a food shortage that turned into a famine, and then you'll die. Except your body's going to hopefully prevent you from dying by conserving energy, by slowing down metabolism, by hanging on to everything it's got. Hopefully, we find food before we die, right? Except you're not in a famine, you're just not eating, so you're going to lose weight, and then hopefully you're going to start eating again, because now if we don't, now we're in a perpetual cycle of starvation mode, and maybe we're in disordered eating territory, and that's a whole other topic that should be addressed. But if at some point you do start eating again, now you're going to hang on to everything because your metabolism has adjusted down, because it thinks there's a good chance that there's a famine coming back at some point. And there probably is, because you're going to go on a diet again. You're going to be good. Right. And Sasha, I wish 26 years ago I started keeping track of how many times people would say, I'm so good all day, and then I just have no willpower. And what they mean is, I've hardly eaten anything. that is a message. I hope if you still have that in your head, that you're going to work really hard to break up with that attitude. There is nothing good about not eating. And I know we've been conditioned to believe that, but I tell you, like, I eat more today at 50 years old than I ever ate at 25. And theoretically, at 25, your metabolism is high and all. No, because it's how my body functions. It's the quality of food that I put in and the way I put it in, which is early and often. And then I stop eating. Right. And so, to your point of intermittent fasting, a window of time that we eat, and then you got to stop eating. And I keep banker's hours with my food. Basically, I eat from 9 to 5 and I don't eat from 5 to 9. Now, every now and then I go outside the bounds because that's real life and I'm not going to be so strict and restrictive and not live life. But early and often, most of my calories are in my body well before my feeding window is over. Well before. Well before. Like, most of them are in by 1. And then I have a little bit between 1 and 5.
So you have said, metabolism. What are, if you could say, okay, here are two things that I would want people to realize. How can I heal your metabolism just by doing one or two things, very baby steps? Because this isn't, we're not asking you to completely change the world or your world. It's like, we want to just give you a couple tidbits of, if you are listening to this and you are struggling, like, here's a couple tidbits. Like, how can my friend heal their metabolism, or how can they start working on changing that mindset?
Well, there's a lot of things that factor into somebody's metabolism. So, absolutely, you have to sleep. You have to manage your stress. Anytime we're in chronic stress, that is going to dramatically impact your body's ability to function. And it's going to affect your metabolism. Yeah. You need to be well hydrated. Most people are not. Most people are chronically dehydrated. So, half your body weight in ounces every day of liquid. That's another thing. I still am just shocked at how many people I work with who don't get anywhere close to their hydration requirements. And then you have to eat enough. And so that there's a little bit of math that goes along with that, figuring out what your basal metabolic rate is. That's the base number of calories you burn just to exist, to lay in bed for 24 hours and just to have your heart beat, your kidneys to filter, your brain to process, your cells to turn over. And that is roughly based on your height, weight, age, and gender. So, there's some fluctuation, obviously, depending on if you are sleeping, if you are stressed or not, if you are training appropriately, or are you over exercising, because that will destroy your metabolism if you over exercise. So there's a lot. I mean, I would like to say, oh, just do this and it'll be fixed. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot to have to fix metabolism, and it's usually a pretty long process. If you are someone who has lived in basically famine mode for a very long time, you're going to need to very slowly boost your calorie intake up to what the appropriate level is. So that, again, you think about way back in the day, there was feast and famine. That's what it was. And so in our world today, the famine is the diet and the restriction, and the feast is I'm off the diet and I eat whatever I want. But when we do that consistently and we keep going off the diet, we never boost our metabolism back up because your body is preparing for the next famine to make sure you survive it. So we want to not, come right off of famine mode into feasting mode. We want to gently reintroduce more calories to bring the body up to speed slowly so that we can start to boost metabolism, and then absolutely the quality of the calories. So, I mean, anybody who's listening to me, you know what I'm about to say. PFF is your BFF. Protein, fat, fiber every 2 to 4 hours, steady blood sugar. Steady blood sugar is one of the key elements for a properly functioning metabolism. And when you spike and crash your blood sugar, a whole bunch of other hormonal imbalance is also happening as a result and to compensate for the spike and crash in blood sugar. So you can see somebody who eats the appropriate amount of calories, but they are not consuming them over a nice period of time to keep blood sugar steady, but rather it's crashed and now it's a feast. And even though it's the appropriate number of calories, maybe for your needs and your goals, because they're not going in the right way at the right time, your body's still not going to function correctly. So there's a lot to it, but I will tell you, it obviously it can be done. It's an overhaul of lifestyle is typically what it is.
And what it sounds like is baby steps.
Yes. Yeah, and unfortunately, nobody likes baby steps, right? Everybody wants like, oh, if I just do this, then tomorrow I'll be magical. Nobody wants to the process. Nobody wants to do the work. Nobody wants to be patient, right? Everyone wants this. Just do this, and then by next week you'll be all better. And that, that doesn't work in almost anything in life, and it certainly isn't going to work with this. So I would say once somebody is truly ready, you got to be ready and you have to realize that it's going to require probably a lot of hard choices, a lot of work, but a lot of patience with yourself and with the process. And let go of this idea of I'm going to have this magical outcome. And if it doesn't happen in 3 months, then what's the point? It didn't work because it doesn't happen in 3 months.
I have noticed people, well, I've seen on social media how people are really mean to, people who are in the starlight that are, they might gain a little weight, or then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what is she doing? She lost all this weight. And instead of focusing on the weight, I want to focus on how magical the human body is, right? Like your body can transform. So at any given point in time, you can sit here. I'll use myself for example. In April, I was like, well, we'll call it almost hitting my rock bottom. I was stressed out. I wasn't eating. I mean, I came to see you and you were like, Sasha, like, are you okay? Like, I wasn't okay. I wasn't okay. But I'm taking the baby steps to get back to my okay. And in just that, from April until today, my body has just made such a beautiful transformation because I am practicing self discipline. And self discipline is the highest form of self love, in my opinion. And so I knew that it wasn't going to be just an overnight, but it was a lot of small, gradual baby steps, absolutely eating again, but not just eating like calories. To eat calories is eating the right calories. And I know for a fact that, yes, my cortisol levels were high. No, I wasn't consuming enough food. You saw me not consume food because I was just so stressed out. But the other thing that you guys have to remember is your body is such a beautiful machine and it is capable of transformation if you want it to be. If you are willing to put in those small little baby steps that'll slowly start to show you that self discipline that you can be like, I'm proud of you. Good job. Let's go. Small baby increments, slowly but surely, will lead up to this giant transformation. And eventually people will say, I want what you have. What did you eat? And you can say something like, I'm eating real food.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is in theory, it's very easy, right? In practice, it's really hard. And you and I talk about this all the time, right? It's the hard choices that all the other choices are easier, more entertaining, more convenient, or my life is just too crazy and I just can't make those choices. You've decided. And so it is about doing the best you can in the real life that you live. And, but also then understanding that if I want a different outcome, I have to do things differently. And, everybody's journey on all of this is very different. And I think sometimes we do look, well, I just want to do what Sasha did. Well, that may or may not work, right? Because I don't live Sasha's life and I'm not trying to reach her goals and I don't respond the way she does to certain things. So I do want people to gather information, but also you have to do your own work. You have to do your experimentation. I didn't figure out me by copying somebody else. I figured out me by doing me and by figuring out what worked and what didn't, and to keep doing the things that worked and to hopefully minimize the things that don't. I figured out me by going through the process and reflecting on it and to learn from those things when I did something that wasn't helpful. Well, why did I do that? And let me figure out maybe how to stop doing it. Right. And so there are so many layers to this. And I do think, and I think social media certainly makes all of this a lot harder, is we look at the outcome and we say, I want that. And then we try to do what we think we need to do to get that. And we don't get that. And then we just label ourselves a failure. Right. And we get in our all or nothing mode because we're so fixated on an outcome rather than just let's just learn how to take care of ourselves and then actually do it. That's the thing, right? So, yes, self discipline is a huge piece of it. I just had this conversation with somebody else. So, like, well, don't you want dessert? Well, of course I want dessert. I always that the answer is always yes. I want dessert. Yes, I want that. Am I always going to choose to have dessert? No, because when I've done that in my life, it led to outcomes I didn't like. So everything is a choice. It really is. And some choices are harder than others. And there are days when I choose dessert and I love it and I don't feel bad about it. And I don't judge anybody who chooses dessert every day, ever. I will tell you, if you choose dessert every time and you don't like your outcomes, you might have to think about choosing differently. And, again, figuring out, why is this hard for me to say no, and figure that out. So, learning about yourself through the process. I think you talk about self-discipline as the highest form of self-love. I think a lot of people don't love themselves. That's actually it. And I teach a class called Love Thyself, is specifically because of this. Somebody came to me, a corporate came to me, they want to do something around self-care, but focusing on love. And I realized that, self-care, I'm obviously that's my jam, right? And yet you're not going to take care of yourself if you don't love yourself. Why would you? And what does self-care even mean? I had this conversation with some friends when I was home. One said, "Oh, I did self-care. I got a manicure and pedicure." And I'm thinking, that's pampering. That's not self-care, right? That's pampering. Taking care of yourself is feeding yourself high quality, good, real nourishing food. It's hydrating yourself. It's moving your body kindly, but in a way that's also going to make you stronger and more powerful and more resilient and give you the strength and stamina, or to correct some imbalances that we have so I don't get injured and I don't have chronic pain, or I'm not accelerating wear and tear. It's allowing yourself rest, repair, and recovery time. It's doing things that are simply for joy and doing things that are interesting to you and that fill you up, spiritually, or your social connections, right? It's not kicking into fight or flight over and over and over and over when there is no reason for you to try to survive. That is self-care, taking care of a human being. That's how you take care of it. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to do it, because all of those things I just mentioned are hard. They're
I
all hard.
Yeah, I guess something that really just hit home for me is when you said what Sasha's going to do isn't necessarily going to be what's best for you. And that was like, why did that hit hard to me? Because it's true. You can't eat 500 bananas or run 600 miles and become me. So why should you try to do the things that I'm doing to be me? You shouldn't try to be me. You should try to be the best version of you. So for me, like, I might not be able to consume rice, but maybe for you genetically, like, you need rice. Like, so that's just an example of like, tap into yourself. Listen to yourself. What is yourself saying to you? Speak kindly to yourself and allow yourself to have the space to be like, okay, today we're going to do and be 1% better than we were yesterday. That's it. Just what can I do to become just that much better than I was yesterday? And is it your food? Is it your water? Is it your rest or your recovery? But I loved how you just said, like, what works for me isn't going to work for Michelle. And it's true. It's not. We are two different bodies, two different human beings being human.
And I think that's maybe one of the biggest obstacles for people, because everyone just wants, like, the plan, right? Just do this. Just do this workout and just eat this food and just take these supplements and then you'll be magical. You'll be amazing. But maybe not, right? Or if that is not a realistic option in your lifestyle, or you don't like doing that, I don't want you to eat food you don't like. I don't want you to go run 10 miles if you don't like running, or if running hurts you, or, it's too hot outside and you don't want to get dehydrated or be exposed to sun because you have melanoma or whatever, right?
Too soon, too soon.
So it is about figuring out what you want to do, and also then determining how is that going to impact the outcome that you say you want. Because there's a lot of times a disconnect. Well, this is what I want to do, but this is the outcome I want. And I want but well, it usually doesn't work that way. So I am always going to encourage people to figure out what outcome are you looking for, and then what do you need to do to get there, and then determine if you are willing and able to do what you need to do to get there. And if you are, great. Let's figure it out. Let's set up your life so you can do it. If you are not willing and able to do what's necessary to get there, then maybe we revise the expectation of the outcome.
So let's say that someone's listening to this and they're like, wow, this really hits home. Are you open to having them reach out to you? Or what are some resources that you would say, hey, I'm not taking on new clients, or maybe you are, but this is where I would suggest that you start?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to chat with anybody to see if I can be a good fit to help guide somebody. But if I'm not, I mean, I know we have plenty of people, but that's the whole point of the podcast. What I would say, easy breezy, no brainer, just listen to our podcast. We talk about this all the time. We've had amazing guests who talk about all of these things in a variety of ways from their own perspective, through their own lens of their own experiences. And I think that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing, is to let people know that you are not the first person to have this struggle. You will not be the last. This isn't really that complicated. It actually is not, right? We like to overcomplicate things. I mean, even, when I have conversations or do lunch and learns and somebody wants to get super down deep in the weeds on something about exercise or nutrition. And I'm like, let's just keep it basic. Don't put garbage in your body, put healthy food in it, get some sunshine, move your body, rest, and do things for joy. If you're not doing those things, this little detail in the weeds, I promise you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so sometimes that's what we do. We focus on this. Oh, but I heard this. Well, okay, but what about these other 8 things that are super simple and rock solid? Are you doing them? No. Well, then this thing isn't going to matter. So, yeah, I think, whenever anybody is taking stock of their life, their health, their happiness, right? Let's just do that. Let's evaluate, scale of 1 to 10, how healthy and happy, how satisfied I am with my life. And then when you give yourself that score, determine what needs to change in order for me to move my score up to be more satisfied with my life. Let me make the list of those things and then figure out, okay, what am I ready and willing to change? Right? You and I just had a conversation before we got online about something big. Now, a year ago, that was not a realistic option. It just wasn't. So, even though that's what you wanted to do, it just wasn't a realistic option. Maybe it is now. So I want people to kind of go through all of that, to look at it, whether it's with your physical being or your relationships or your profession or whatever it is. If you're not satisfied, the only person that can get you more satisfied is you. That's it, right? You are the only person that can make changes in your life that is going to move your needle. And so you decide what that looks like. And then we go through the steps of making it happen. And when you're truly ready, when it's important enough, you're going to recognize that, yes, it's going to be hard, but the hard is worth it. Hard now or harder later, right? And the hard is worth it because you're ready to actually make the change, and you're setting yourself up to be successful versus, this all or nothing mindset or this outcome that's not realistic for the moment, but I'm still going to beat myself up because I didn't get to it. And I think that's a lot of times where people go. They try to reach this goal, but it's just really not realistic for where they are currently. And so then instead of giving themselves grace and accepting that, they beat themselves up and label themselves a failure. And then a whole bunch of behaviors ensue because we now have labeled ourselves a certain way. None of those things are going to help us get to where we want to be. And so it can be this really yucky, circular trap that we get into, and just really have a hard time getting out.
Yeah, and when you explain all that, it just makes me think of food again. Just most of the time, all of it is revolved around food.
Yeah.
Setting yourself up and then, not accomplishing it, your goal, maybe it was to, eat 5 times or eat PFF 4 of the 5 times or whatever it is, right? And then you don't accomplish it. And then next thing you know, you go into those yucky thinking and you start to just self label failure or whatever it is. And then you start beating yourself up and you're like, well, if I can't even do it one day, then that's it. I throw in the towel and then binge or whatever. My sister is living with us and I'm doing I can't even say the word, you guys. Fast. I'm doing the smart fasting.
Just call it IF.
Okay.
IF. Yeah.
I'm doing IF. And I have found the window that works for me, which is fantastic. And I'm excited. That's another thing, you guys. So, like, Michelle's window is different than my window, right? Because that's what works for Michelle. My window works for me. And my sister was like, oh, I go, hey, girl, you like, it was whatever, 8 o'clock at night. She was about to eat. And I was like, we're fasting. And she's like, no, I haven't been doing good at all this week with fasting. I go, okay, but who cares about this week? What about today? And she's like, what? And I was like, what about today? Like, I don't care if you didn't do good this whole week, but like, what about today? Like, you can make the conscious decision right now to just go back into it. And you can just have one good day out of 7 days. And what is that? It's called a mindset.
Yeah.
It's changing your mindset to set yourself up for success in the moment right now and not focus on what you did yesterday.
I heard this analogy years ago, and somebody that was in Weight Watchers, their leader or whatever said this: if you have a flat tire, I'm sure we've all had a flat tire, right? Do you go and slash your other 4 tires just because you have a flat tire? Right. Yeah, Sasha does, right? Of course not. And yet that is what we do, right? We throw in the towel. Oh, well. And you're right. Every choice is a choice in the moment. And it's the choice to get out of all or nothing mode and recognize that everything I do is either going to get me closer to where I want to be or farther away from where I want to be. It's going to do one or the other. And then make the choice intentionally, right? Do it intentionally, own your choice, and then figure out what to do next. So I know this was geared towards nutrition. I think we touched enough on nutrition, but I think we got a lot of other concepts in there as well that are just overarching themes about wellness. And this is National Wellness Month. So every month should be National Wellness Month, because if you are not well, I don't know, a whole bunch of other things yeah, are not going to go well either.
Yeah.
But maybe this is the month that you really decide to do some self-evaluation, take stock, list it all, whatever it is, right? And then figure out, okay, I'm in charge of me. What can I do? What am I ready and willing to do differently? And it does start with the mindset, 100%. The mind is the hardest thing to change. Unless and until you change it, nothing else does. And so if you are struggling because the mindset is your biggest obstacle, then maybe that's where the hard work starts.
Yeah, I would definitely say keep fighting for yourself. You're going to be not only just your biggest advocate, but your only advocate. So you have 2 wolves in there. Feed the good wolf. Keep fighting for yourself, and baby steps. Don't get down on yourself. When I went and visited Michelle in March, I was not my healthiest version, but I knew she was still in there. I gave myself grace and understanding. And I knew that, like, at this time in my life, I'm really struggling. And I know that when I have the capacity and am in a healthy place where I'm not struggling anymore, then I will be able to start to dig myself out of the trenches. But if you can't do it alone, then seek help. Find a holistic doctor, reach out to Michelle, reach out to someone that we've had on the podcast. But my one thing that I want to say is, like, don't lose hope. Fight for yourself. You're your only advocate. You're your biggest advocate. And you need to invest in yourself. Fight for yourself. Fight for your mental health. Fight for that little voice, and feed the good wolf, and just do what it takes to just become 1% better today than you were yesterday.
I love that. And that is a beautiful way to wrap this up. So thank you, my dear. Awesome conversation as always. Everybody, now you get to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.